Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. I am Afia Mahmood from University of Education, Bank Road Campus, Lahore. This is the course of Advanced Phonology. This is a specialization course of BS English Linguistics Group, Semester 8. And in this lecture, we are going to discuss the topic of distinctive features from the course outline. This lecture will cover the following topics. We will have an introduction of what distinctive features are, and we will see why there was need of distinctive features theory. So before we begin, dear students, I ask you all a question, and most of you know the answer. What is the minimal unit of speech sound? Most of you quickly will be able to quickly answer that it is phoneme. Yes, phoneme is the minimal unit of speech sound. This is what we have learned in the course of phonetics and phonology that you had covered in second semester. Now, what does the word minimal mean? Minimal unit means that something which is indivisible, which cannot be further divided. But do you really think that phoneme cannot be further divided? Let's look at these examples. There are three speech sounds, three minimal speech sounds, p, b, and t. If you try to describe these speech sounds, you will have to take help from the places and manners of articulation and from voicing as well. So if you will have to describe per sound, you will say that it is a voiceless sound, you will say that it is a bilabial sound, and you will also say that it is a stop. So you have taken help from certain other features to describe one phoneme. It means phoneme is not the minimal unit. It is divisible, and it is divisible into some other phonetic features which make up this particular phoneme. So we are going to see that why there was this need of distinctive features. So phonologists say that we analyze features and not the phonemes for the analysis of speech sounds. Now, what are these features? From where do these features come? Now, all the languages of the world have some phonological symmetry, have some similarities. Now, what are those similarities? That there is actually a small universal set of features, and all the languages of the world take their phonetic features from this small set. This is the reason that you will find that many sounds in Spanish, many sounds in Chinese, Urdu and English, they are same or are similar. So it means that phonological systems of the languages of the world, they have certain common features. If they have certain common features, it means we can analyze languages of the world with the help of only with the help of a common set of features. So that's the purpose of distinctive features theory, to propose a set which is common for all the languages. Through a common set, we should be able to analyze all the languages of the world. Now, in distinctive features, we look at the ingredients of phoneme. See here that we focus on the basic phonological ingredients that make up phoneme, and these basic phonological ingredients are called distinctive features. Now, it shouldn't be mysterious for us. It shouldn't be something very unique for us that there is a relatively small inventory of phonetic features from which languages select different combinations to construct their individual phoneme systems. So as I said in the previous slide, that we in Urdu, you have certain sounds which are comparable, which are also present in English. You have certain sounds in English which are also present in Spanish and Chinese. Though there are certain different sounds as well, but most of the sounds are common. So it means that there is some relatively small inventory, relatively small set of phonetic features from where we are actually making up our phonemes. So we are talking about phonetic features, that from certain features we are making up our phonemes. We are making up the phonemes of our own languages. Now we will move on. Now, the reason behind proposing a universal set of distinctive features is that the human race is gifted with very similar articulatory and auditory capabilities. Now, you all know that human race is bestowed with the faculty of speech. No other race, no other species is able to produce speech sounds. It means that all the humans are able to use their articulatory or their articulators in a certain way. So, and which other species are not able to use. So, if humans are bestowed with similar articulatory and auditory capabilities, it means they are able to produce similar sounds, they are able to utilize similar phonetic features. So look at here, see here in these lines, it is only to be expected that they will only be able to produce and utilize speech sounds built up from the set which is predetermined by their biological endowment. Like the concept of universal grammar, it is also said that there are few universal phonetic features which all humans can utilize, which all humans can use. So it means that we can analyze languages of the world. Being a linguist, you can analyze any language of the world with the help of those features. Now, how do we describe speech sounds in general? If we ask you to describe a speech sound in general according to your previous knowledge that you have without having any knowledge of distinctive features, you will probably say that phonemes or speech sounds can be described or can be defined according to their place and manner of articulation, or according to their voicing, or according to their tongue positions. So when you specify one of these descriptions, if you will try to specify the description of place, you are actually defining the articulatory features of the particular sound. If you say that p is a bilabial sound, or if you say p is a stop, or t is a stop and an alveolar sound, you are actually further describing their articulatory features. Now, these feature specifications in distinctive feature theory are not limited to only articulatory properties as discussed in the last slide. So these are not only limited to places and manners. Now these feature specifications in distinctive features theory also include certain acoustic properties such as strident and voicing, and we will look at some more acoustic properties as well. Strident means that a sound is noisy. For example, fricative sounds are actually noisy. And voicing means that a sound is making vibration. When a sound is produced, there is vibration in your vocal cords. So distinctive features are also specified with the help of articulatory properties. And for example, the articulatory properties you already know, like whether your tongue is high at a high position while producing certain sound, or whether back part of the tongue is raised, or whether tip or blade of the tongue is used. So coronal means that tip or blade of the tongue is being used. And whether we also look at this function in a syllable, whether a sound can function as a nucleus of the syllable or not, if it can, whether a sound can stand as a consonant or as a vowel in a syllable. So this is how features are specified. Now we will here define distinctive features formally. Distinctive features represent a finer grained abstract representation of phones. So they are more fine, they are more abstract representation of phonemes. So a phone can be described as a phone, or a phoneme can be described as a bundle of features, and each feature's corresponding value. So if you have to say, for example, if you have to describe B sound, you will say that B has the feature of voicing, which is plus. So we will describe that it with the help of bundle of features. We will look at all the features in detail. These features and their corresponding values are hypothesized as the mental representation of our phone inventory. So now these features are actually stored in our mind, and their values as well. If we have to produce a certain sound, we will know that we have to raise our tongue, or we have to raise the back of the tongue or front of the tongue, or we have to produce this sound with the help of lips, or teeth will be involved. So we will actually know what are the corresponding values. We would have saved all these features in our mind. Okay, now in this theory, the basic unit is the feature, not the phoneme, because features cannot be broken into smaller units. It is the most small unit, the smallest indivisible sound which can be analyzed. We analyze it through binary system. Binary system will be defined in the next slide as well. And the core idea of this theory is that a small set of features is able to differentiate between the phonemes of any single language. Now, binary system, a feature that signals the difference in meaning by changing its plus or minus value. For example, in tip, look at the first sound, tip, t, there is minus voice feature, and in dip this feature is plus voice. So we say binary system is a system or a feature. In binary system, a feature is either present or absent. Pluses, the signs of plus and the sign of minus are used. Instead of two separate labels such as voiced and voiceless, we apply only one label like voice. We say that there is voicing. If we have to say there is voicing, we say plus voice, and if we have to say there is absence of voice, we say it is minus voice. So in binary system, presence, or to show the presence or absence of some feature, we use the signs of plus and minus. Then in distinctive features, every speech sound shares some articulatory and acoustic properties with other speech sounds. For example, the consonant n shares nasality with m, complete oral closure with this set p, b, m, t, d, k, and g, and an elevated tongue tip with the set. So it is likely to be categorized or classified with, so n is likely to be classified with m, or likely to be classified with this set and or this set. We will look at it in detail in the next lecture. Now, the hypothesis, what's the hypothesis behind this distinctive feature theory? That we have already discussed it as well. The hypothesis is that there is a small set of phonetically based properties which phonological analysis uses. That phonological analysis does not need a long list of a long list of phonetic features. There is just a small set, and these properties can be used to analyze phonemes. So these properties or the distinctive features not only define the possible phonemes of human language but also define phonological rules. So this small set can be used to describe or to define phonological rules of the language. What are phonological rules? That how a certain sound is pronounced in a language. How does a certain sound change its features when it is accompanied by some different sounds? So phonological rules are also defined with the help of distinctive features. There are three main principal arguments of distinctive feature theory. The first one is the union of the sound systems of all spoken languages is a smaller set than the physical capabilities of the human vocal and auditory systems would lead one to expect. It means that being humans, we can produce a range of sounds. But being a phonologist, your job is to analyze speech sounds. Your job is not to analyze any sounds which humans are capable to produce. So because humans can obviously produce both the speech sounds and non-speech sounds, humans can produce many sounds, can mimic many animal sounds as well. But your job is to analyze only speech sounds. So instead of looking at what sounds the speakers of a particular language can produce, it is better to look at the small set which is common or which is universal for all the languages of the world. If you will be looking to analyze the sounds that can be produced by the speakers of a particular language, your list will become too long. So instead of going into a long analysis, into such a lengthy and time-taking analysis, you can just look at the small set of universal features. The second main argument for distinctive feature theory is that distinctive features help to explain the structure of sound systems. For example, many languages have no sounds from the set b, d, g, but if a language has one of them, it is likely to have all of them. These sounds are plus voice, referring to the presence of vocal fold vibration. I'll give you another example to explain this. In your Urdu language, for example, you have bh sound as in bhool, or you have dh sound as in dhol, and you have th sound as in thela. Now, English language does not have any of these. So, in Urdu, we are having the feature of voicing plus aspiration together. You are having b voicing feature plus h aspiration feature together. And if we are having one of this sound, we are having all these three sounds as well, like bh, th and dh. We are and gh as well. So we are able to produce all those sounds which are voiced, plus they have the feature of aspiration. So this is what we are saying here, that the distinctive features are going to help us to explain the structure of the sound systems of the language. If one language has a sound, it is likely to have other similar sounds in it as well. Now the third principle which distinctive feature theory it is phonological rules and processes depend on the classes of sounds defined by distinctive feature values. And so the notion possible phonological process is in part determined by the universal feature theory. It means that phonological processes of the languages are dependent on the universal feature theory. Now, you can describe the phonological rules or the phonological processes in a language with the help of distinctive features. There is no other way. With the help of phoneme, you won't be able to write phonological rules, or you won't be able to describe what phonological processes are taking place. Let's take the examples. Look at these some examples. Now this is the case of English plural suffix. Look at this plural suffix sir. Sir has been added here in all of these examples. Caps, chiefs, cats, tats. And these examples as well, labs, shelves, beds, bags. Now in these two examples, sir was added, but sir is giving us different sound in all of in these two categories of the words. In this first category, it is giving us a different sound because the preceding sound is a voiceless sound, which is affecting the following sound, which is affecting the following plural suffix. So it means the feature of voicelessness is actually affecting the next sound which has been added. It means these features actually affect the pronunciations in the language. Now look at it, how the feature of voicing, here it was minus voice feature, now here it is going to be the plus voice feature. B, V, D and G. These sounds have the feature of plus voice. Now when you say lab and when you add sir to it, it becomes labs, or it becomes shelves when you add sir to shelf, and it becomes beds when you add sir to bed. So it means that voicing, the feature of plus voice, is affecting the following sound. Now look at these examples. Next one, passes, roses, lashes, garages. Now in all of these sounds, there is something else, something other than the feature of voicing. Look at it. In pass, you have this s sound. In rose, you have z sound. In lash, you have sh sound. And garage, you have j sound. So s is a voiceless sound, z will be a voiced sound, sh will be again a voiceless sound, and j will be again a voiced sound. So it means it is a mixture of voiceless and voiced sound, but some similar rule, some same rule is being applied on all of these, which is giving them an is sound, like passes, roses, lashes and garages. So whenever there will be these sounds, s, z, sh and j, so these sounds belong to the category of strident. Whenever there will be strident sounds and we are adding a plural suffix s, it will take with it the sound of vowel as well. There will be insertion of a vowel sound as well. This is why we are pronouncing them as passes. So now this is a phonological rule of the language. You can see this phonological rule is written over here. The English plural suffix is a typical example. This suffix agrees in the value of voice with the sound at the end of the noun, minus voice in caps, cats, tax versus labs, shelves, beds, bags. So this is the rule of first example that we had taken, and this is rule B. For the second example, this suffix is pronounced with a vowel if the noun ends in a plus strident consonant characterized by turbulent airflow and consequent s, like hissing noise. And classes like these, plus voice, minus voice and strident, are frequently encountered in the phonological processes of the world's language. So you see, this suffix is pronounced with a vowel if the noun ends in a strident consonant. So rule B is describing this second set of examples: passes, roses, lashes, and garages. Now we will move on. Now, phonological processes. There is another example of phonological processes, how distinctive features help us to describe phonological processes of the language. Now examine the data below and tell what do you understand, what's happening. Let me tell you one thing, that this small circle under R sound actually shows that R is devoiced here. So observe this data carefully, and you have to try to describe the behavior of R sound. You would probably have noticed that R becomes devoiced when it comes after the voiceless sounds. You see, like when it is coming after P, when it's coming after T, and when it's coming after K sound. These are voiceless sounds, and when it comes after these sounds it becomes voiceless, whereas it maintains its voicing. It does not lose its voicing when it comes after voiced sounds like B, D and G. Now this is so it means that the distinctive features can actually help us to elaborate certain phonological processes. You can see that this is the process of this phonological process called assimilation process has been described here. The signal to start voicing is delayed until well after the beginning of the R due to imprecise adjustment of the articulatory apparatus in the transition from one sound to the next. Looking at the sounds in terms of the individual parameters which they consist of allows an insightful expression of assimilation process. So, students, looking at the sounds in terms of the individual parameters, the distinctive features, it is only with the help of distinctive features that we are able to define, or we are able to describe what actually happened, what caused R to lose its voicing. Okay, now here is another set of data. Examine this data again. This set of data has been taken from American English. Now there are two columns. You have to look at these two columns carefully, A and B. In the first column there are the sounds pad, pass and pack. In the second column we have pan, pam and pang. We have these sounds. Now what do you observe from this?